Hey everyone, welcome back to my video. So in this video, we'll see the main components of a JSON file. So what are the things we have to kept in mind while creating a JSON file? So the JSON file, we can create it manually as well as we can use some library to create the JSON data, and we can also use the some library function to pass the data and put in some structures so that there is a data exchange between the two entities. Okay, so before going into that scenario, we have to first see what is a JSON file, what are the components related to a JSON file. So if you see here, we'll cover the core components of a JSON data. Then we have the rules related to the JSON data. Okay. Then we'll create a complex JSON file and we'll explain each and every point. We'll take a example of the embedded data and we'll try to explain all the components over to that file. And then last, we'll see how the data can be mapped to the individual structures in C. Okay, for example, we get that data, we get the file from the remote server and we are parsing it, putting into some structures, right? So that is our main motto. So we are sending that data to some remote device and parse after parsing we'll get that data and we'll utilize it in C program. So that is our ultimate goal. So let's start first the core components of a JSON file. So here you'll see these are the core components of a JSON file. So first one is an objects. Okay. So we have objects in that JSON file that starts and end with a curly braces. If you see here, you have a curly braces mentioned here, and all the data will reside in these curly braces only. So that file itself will start with a array or a object. That is the main thing. Okay. Then the second thing as a core component of JSON file is a array. So what is an array? So array will be defined as a square brackets. We have multiple objects in that array as well. So we know what is an array. Okay. So here also in the file we mention like we can accommodate multiple objects. We can accommodate nested objects as well in that array. Okay, we'll see an example once we go to the main uh, data. Okay, so next is a key value pair. So main component of any JSON file will be a key value pair. Okay, so that file can contain only one key value pair, or there will be a multiple, objects, arrays, and but the main component of that file remains the key value. We have a key and we have a value separated by a column. Okay. And here I given an example of a nested objects. So as you see here, we have you know curly braces and we accommodate our objects inside that. So how the nested objects will look like? So if you see here, this is one object. Okay. So I'll explain all the three parts here. If you see here, this is a key value pair. Okay. We have latitude and it's 12.97. Okay. And second, we are getting a comma and then we have longitude and the value is 77.59. Okay. So these are separated by comma, but this is enclosed within these two curly braces. So this constitute one object. Okay, so here we have a key value pair and here we have a first object. And also if you see here, there is one more object here. So in which we have a key and a value. So this value is a whole object. Okay, so this is the format. Okay, so you got to know what are the three above listing here. Okay, now we have a data types. So there are multiple data types. So here we have a string data type, we have a number like we mentioned here is 12.97 and without uh commas. Okay, we don't have this number 42 like it's mentioned here without this thing. Okay, and next we have a boolean type of data. It may be true or a false. Okay, then we can have null, we can array, and we have objects like we discussed here. So these all things will constitute the JSON file data. Okay, so next what we will see, we'll see what are the rules we have to kept in mind if we are creating that file manually. What are the things we have to kept in mind while creating this file? So first one is a key must be in double quotes. Okay, so if you mention, if that thing is mentioned in the last example, we have latitude that is in the curly braces, so that is a key. The value is after that column. Okay, so no trailing commas. It means whatever object we have separated by comma, the last we don't have any comma. So if there is a data after that, key value pair, then we will put comma. If we don't have any data after that key pair, we won't put any comma. That will create problem. Okay. So we have a top level must be object on array. So in the last example we have seen we have a curly braces. Okay. So in that we define it as an object. We can have array as well, but this data is enclosed in that part only. So while parsing, the parser knows these rules so that it can fetch the exact data without giving any error. Okay, so value must be valid JSON type. So we mentioned there are string, there are number, and we have null. These type of data we have, right? Array and objects like that. These values we should have in our data. Last one is a white space is allowed for readability. So we can have white space and we can have indentation. So while processing that JSON, that spaces and data will be ignored and it will be a single line, something like that to fetch that data or to parse that data. They will remove all the spaces and tabs. Okay. So this is the basic rules for creating a JSON file. Now we'll see a simple, JSON file, okay, and we will include all the things which we have discussed in that file only. So let's give it a try. For example, we have a example, we have dot JSON file. So this is a format of a JSON file which we will create. And this is the data we have. For example, you start with the curly braces and end with a curly braces. And inside that we have device ID. So this is taken from ESP32. Uh, so this data will discuss each and everything which you have discussed. So here we have a key value pair. Then we have comma. Okay, so next we have this timestamp colon. This timestamp is there, comma. Then we have location. So if you see here, this will uh, give the nested objects. So here we have data, and in the data we have latitude, longitude, and altitude. All is in the key pair value. So all the data is in the key pair value, and we have object uh, uh, here. Okay, so this is enclosed in a curly braces which constitute an object. Then we have sensor data. So if you see here, this is also a key, and we have a array here. We start with an array, we end with an this braces. Okay, and inside we have one object and two objects. So array can accommodate multiple objects, and each object can accommodate multiple key values. So if you see here, as per the rule, we have type temperature, comma, then we have value to 28.5 and comma, and unit is C. Okay. If we put a comma after that, it is not allowed. Okay, so if we have data after this, then we'll put comma and put that data. So that is the meaning of that rule which we discussed. Okay, so next we have a type. Type is humidity, value 60, and unit is percentage. So this thing is enclosed in an array. And next we have status. Status, we have curly braces start from here. So this is also an object which contain multiple key value pairs of data having comma separated things. And in the last we have alerts, in which we put some alert messages separated by comma in the form of an array. Okay, so this is a generic JSON file where all the things are being kept which we have discussed. Okay, so as we get this data, how we'll fetch this data? So this can be fetched in some structure as we talk of a C language. Okay, so for example, we have location, sensor, status, and alerts. Okay, so if you see, these are the structures we can accommodate after parsing that data. So if you see here, we have location. So all the location data which we mentioned in the file that got parsed into these structures, only the structure values are being filled while parsing. Also, we have status. If you see here, batteries, signal strength, vector mode, and everything is there. So whatever data we have in that file, it got passed. It This structure will be populated at the receiver end. And here, if we have a long this location data, then we will fetch from here. Then we have sensor data, we will fetch from here. And this is a part of a structure hierarchy. And here we have a device data which contain everything. This is a location structure, sensor data. For example, 10 sensors data we're collecting here. Then we have status as well, alert as well. Okay, we have multiple messages we can put in here, and alert count as well. So everything we are accommodating in this structure. So that data which we are sending to some remote server that got passed, and these structure will be filled. So this can be done vice versa as well. For example, we have this structure, we want to create that JSON file and we'll send over the network to the remote location. That also can be done using some library function. We are using CJSON APIs. In the next session, we will study how to create a JSON file using that CJSON APIs, and how to pass the data using CJSON APIs. So CJSON is used, large in the C programming while we are discussing or communicating our C app with the cloud. So these all scenarios we are using that CJSON. So we will have a look on that. So let's see in the next video. Thanks.